Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thanks for taking the time to visit with me. I want to talk about an experience I had about 2 weeks ago. My wife had gone out of town. She did a staycation with her girlfriends, and so I was home that Friday night by myself. So as always, I did my typical routine, and then this is something that happened to me, and it's really, really profound. I say this about all my videos that it was pretty amazing, but they are pretty freaking amazing. So this one again involves my mother, which is kind of trippy. So I think I mentioned to you guys before that my mother had fallen down the stairs. So it was Friday night and I was just thinking about her. I was kind of worried and concerned, make sure she's doing okay. I had spoken to her already during the day, but she was just on my mind, you know. Of course, she's my mom. So I was thinking about calling her, but it was actually already pretty late and something just told me, don't call her, don't call her. So then I had this vision or this download, okay? So I saw, and again, this isn't like my physical mom. Like I don't physically see her, but like I know it's her. It represents her. So the first thing you showed me was kind of like an operating, like what I let, like an operating type table. And the message that I got was, hey, we're going to fix your mom. We're going to work on your mom. And I remember like on another level, feeling a level of anxiety because I'm like, I don't know the first thing what to do. I am ill-equipped to do this. I'm not the guy for the job. And then like something just told me like was comforting me like, don't even worry about it. We got this. In a very like, don't even worry about it kind of way. But I knew I was going to have to do the work. So I was kind of scared, but I was being reassured like on another level, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. So what I saw was my mom was kind of like on a table, so to speak. And then underneath her, I'm going to show you what I drew. What I try to draw. Okay, I'm not an artist. Okay, but I saw it was kind of something like this, right? So this represented my mom's, and then this represented different layers, and I'll explain this. So when I first saw this, I'll talk about that too. So when I first saw this, I thought this was a paddle. Like, you know those mixing bowls, when they mix shit, they got those mixing paddles. That's initially what I thought it was. But then it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it was very cavernous in the sense that it was showing me we're going to clean all this shit out. And then remember, this is my mom up here. She's real small. So it was like a lot we had to clean up. And this is kind of a vent shaft. And I'll talk about that as well. So it turns out that it wasn't really a paddle like I thought it was. It was more so what I believe to be a shovel. Because we had to do a lot of work. So that's how it started. So I took some notes here. So I had a sense of my mom leaving me. And she was a younger version. It was a younger version of her, kind of like when I still lived in New Jersey. And she was saying, Jimmy, you know, bye. So I was here. She was kind of like right there. She was saying, bye, Jimmy, bye. And she was waiting for me to acknowledge her. And like, I couldn't understand it. She's like, Jimmy, bye, bye, bye. And she said bye like 4 times. And finally I was like, someone would just like, okay, just go. And then so she left. Like, you know, she kind of just went this way and she kind of disappeared. But I thought at that level that my mom had passed away. And then I thought initially, like in a very childish way, like that my mom had passed away. And so at that level, at the level that I was at, I felt the pain and loss of my mother. And it was catastrophic. It was devastating. I cried so much and the pain was so profound. Like, you know, you think you know pain, but there's nothing like losing your moms, you know? I love my mother very, very much. And so she was leaving and I was crying and crying and crying and I felt that pain. And then something told me, remember, you know that prepaid legal, remember that? So it kind of hinted that, and it's like, we're helping you deal with the pain for and when that time comes. So that way you can be strong now. So if that's assuming she goes before me, of course. But I thought that was very interesting that I was kind of dealing with it in advance so that when the actual event does happen, that I'm stronger at that time. Who knows? We'll see. So I thought that was very, very deep and very interesting. So then, and then I saw myself kind of like in the woods, not in the woods per se, but kind of like in the woods. And there was an opening and there were like 4 or 5 people standing over here to my right, about maybe 20, 30 feet away. And then there was a group of like 5 or 7 people. And then from behind those people, somebody was kind of working their way through. And then I saw like a timeline. And it was like, my mom's 80, and they were like, this needs to be done right away. This is the only chance I'm going to get to do this. Fuck it, I'm going to do it. So then a person came through, and like this person needed to be heard. when that happened, I saw a picture of a doll, like a little rag doll, I don't know, about this doll, about this big, right? And then I saw a picture of the world. And then it showed me, so then the doll was laying on top of the world. So this is a perfect ball. The doll was like laying on top of the world. And then through the doll, I saw like a screw. And it went through the doll and it went into the earth, what represented the earth. And then the understanding was that I feel like my baby was screwed over by the world. And I didn't really understand it. So then that screw is what we were going to be carving out and digging out and cleaning. All the shit that the world has caused and all the pain that the world has caused this baby doll is what we're going to clean out. So I was like, okay, cool. So then here's what's crazy is that it was my grandfather. My grandfather had passed away when my mother was only like 9 or 10 years old. So I never even met the man. The only thing I know of him is one picture that we have, that it's been the only picture that I've ever seen. So I don't know anything about him. I've always heard good things about him. He was a very loving and caring man, et cetera, et cetera. But again, he passed away when my mom was really young. So it was a brand new essence or feeling, or it was a brand new thing to me. So then he showed me, so then I saw a picture of my mom and she was kind of walking through the woods, right? And then there was kind of like an opening. This is crazy, man. There was kind of like an opening. I'm sorry. She's walking through the woods and there was like a little lake. But the lake had it was more like an inlet, because there was a lake and then there was these two rocks, two giant boulders. And then in between the boulders, the lake had access to the ocean. But I couldn't really see the ocean per se. All I could see from between the rocks was just pure light, a lot of light. And he told me that he was the one who always lit the way for my mother when she was having hard times. And that's how he was able to help her on the other side. And that's very important, because there's something that my mother had told me the following day before I even told her this. No, I'll just tell you right now. So I called my mom the next day. There's more to this story, but I called my mom the next day and I told her, Mom, something happened that I want to share with you, and you're not going to believe it. But I couldn't tell her over the phone because I just wasn't emotionally ready. When these things happen to me, it's such a strong emotional charge that I don't mean to sound like a little bitch, but like I can't even talk about it without revisiting it and then feeling it and having a breakdown, because they're just incredibly emotional, powerful, emotionally charged experiences. So I wasn't really ready to tell my moms because I just wasn't ready. So then we just started talking about something else, and my mom's telling me this story about one time when she had gotten lost. Now, where I'm from back east, it's a small town and there's some major highways there. So if you take a wrong turn, you're going to get stuck going on the highway, and you got to go all the way through and get an exit and to come off, and then it's going to throw you probably in another town. So my mother is always scared to drive on the highway, because she doesn't want to drive on the highway. She's an 80-year-old lady who drives a little Toyota or a little Honda, The last thing she wants to do is deal with major traffic. So my mother telling me the story about one time when she got lost. And she says, I knew that I was really close, but I couldn't see where I needed to go. She goes, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and out of nowhere, a car turned on their lights and showed me the way of where I needed to turn. My mother told me that the very next day, before I even told her about her grandfather telling me, oh, I was always the light showing your mother and helping your mother every step of the way throughout her whole life. What the fuck, man? You can't even make that shit up. So that was kind of, in a sense, confirmation for me that what happened to me was real. So then he was tired of the pain. He wanted to come back and help her out. And then he started telling me, so then he was trying to communicate with me, but I couldn't understand what he was, what's that called? The metaphor. He was trying to speak to me metaphorically, but I couldn't understand it. But I did see myself with him in all kinds of different places in Puerto Rico. If you've never been to Puerto Rico, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. with amazing views. And he was taking me all around the island and showing me different views. And he was trying to indicate to me something along the lines that, like, the awesomeness that I feel standing and looking at this view is similar to the way I feel and love your mom, or something along those lines. But I couldn't understand him. And he was really trying to talk to me. He's really trying to communicate with me. But again, he was just using words or metaphors that I just didn't understand. And I feel kind of shitty about it. I mean, I wish I could have, but I just couldn't. But I felt everything else. So then he was telling me, this is the only chance I'm going to get. So I'm going to go ahead and just send you all the love that I wanted to send to her, that I couldn't give her because I wasn't physically there. And all of a sudden, man, it's like I'm underneath Niagara Falls. And it's just this pouring of love and light. I'm telling you guys, man, I said this on all my videos. If this were to happen to you once, just one time, I promise you it would change your life forever. It would change your life forever. You will never be the same, because it's almost like an awakening. Like once you realize and understand that this love energy exists and that you're part of it, you'll realize that nothing here in the world really matters. It does matter per se, but you understand that it's fucking bullshit. This is temporary. Nothing means nothing. It's just beyond words. So anyways, let me go on. So he had given me like 4 different times of like just massive, massive, massive energy and love downloads that were just beyond words. And I was crying and crying and crying. So then so then I was kind of back to where my mother had left. So she was over here and she left and she went that way, right? And then like another version of my mom came in. And it was really interesting because it looked nothing like my mom. But it was a young, happy, bubbly girl. Like with no worries in the world. And I was led to understand that this is kind of like my new mom, like the new version of my mom, so to speak. And now going back to this one, so she had left, man, and she had to say goodbye to me 4 times because I didn't want to say goodbye. So then when she left, this new version of my mom came in, and she was almost like in a room. It was like a perfect room, very clean. And then I knew that the energy was my mom, but I wasn't accepting her as my mom. Okay. So then this version of my mom came back and she says, Jimmy, and I fucking kid you not, man. It's like my mother was sitting right next to me, consoling me. And she told me, Jimmy, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You have to. And then she tells me this. She says, you have to let this version of me go because this new version of me cannot exist in the same space as the old version of me. The old version of me that was hurt and that carried all that pain is healed. So you have to let that version of me go because the new version of me cannot occupy the same space because this is a new and improved version of me, so to speak. So you have to let me go. And she was, I kid you not, my mother was like sitting right next to me, like etherically, like consoling me. Jimmy, it's okay. It's okay. And she had to tell me like 4 or 5 times, Jimmy, it's okay. Jimmy, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And finally, when I let her go, so to speak, the new version, the new and improved version of my mom was there. Like, it's almost like she was healed on a different level. Now, I also question if I'm projecting this. Is this really my interpretation of what my mom was going through? Or is this really my mom's pain that she felt? I mean, I don't know. I did end up telling her, and I'll tell her again when I see her in a couple of weeks. I'll tell her in person. I did tell her over the phone, and it was very well received. It was very well received. You know, my mom's kind of a tough woman, you know. She had to be tough. And so to see that softer side of her was really nice and overwhelming. So then all of a sudden, like a little while later, I felt myself, can't sound crazy, I felt myself like an air conditioning duct. You know those freaking ducts you see? A rectangular duct. I was like a duct, but bigger. And it was more squared and it was really long. And it just showed me that. And then I felt like, you know, this how I showed you, like that big deep cavern that we were digging out, getting rid of all that ugliness. So the metaphor that I was to understand was that was a vent shaft that went all the way down into that hole, and it was releasing all the gases. And my body was literally converted to like a vent shaft, and all the gases were leaving. And then when that was happening, I started to cry again. But it wasn't, here's the crazy part, it wasn't even my crying. It was It was all of my mother's pain. The residual pain, if you will, was escaping through the vent. And and I could feel that pain coming through me. And then I started to cry. But the funny part is, it wasn't even me crying. It sounded just like my mother crying. Yeah. So almost like we were getting rid of that on a deep level. And you know, on a certain note, I felt like on a spiritual level, perhaps we were doing some work and healing my mom, and I think healing me as well. There was some healing on my end as well. And I'll tell you a real quick story. So when I was young, I made a really stupid mistake, and my parents thought I got involved in drugs, like heavy drugs. So my mother was always the tough one. My father was a nice guy. But my father called me, my brother and I down, and we had a real come to Jesus type of meeting with my dad. And and my mom stood by his side, and she didn't say a word this whole time. So my dad started to tell us, look, man, I love you guys more than life itself, and I'll die for you. I wouldn't even think twice. But if you think for 1 minute, I'm going to support, if you get involved in drugs, you're fucked. You're on your own. If you get caught up, if you get locked up, you're going to jail. You're fucking done. I'm done with you. He goes, it's going to hurt me, but your mom and I will be okay. But if you want to fuck up your life, you're going to fuck yourself, and you're not taking us down with you. I'm telling you that right now. And my mom has stayed quiet that time. So I'm thinking, well, shit, Pop's the nice one. He's saying that. If mom stayed quiet, she'll bury me under the jail. So that's what I walked away with after that encounter. Now, I was like 13 years old, 14 years old when that happened. So you can imagine, that was a long time ago. So my mother brings that up when I'm talking to her on the phone. And she goes, remember that time your dad told you, yada, yada, yada? She says, well, you know, there was no way. And this is my mother telling me now. She says to me, there was no way in the world I was going to let you stay in jail. If you got in trouble, I was going to get you out. There's no way I would have ever let you stay there. And so that showed me another side of my mom, like a really soft, loving, caring side of my mom's that honestly, she never showed me before because she was always, you know, kind of tough. So that was also healing for me as well, to know that, man, shit, mom kind of had my back this whole time. I didn't think she did, you know. So for whatever that's worth, man, but I'm telling you, it was phenomenal. And I honestly feel like on a different level that there was a lot of healing that went on. And especially because all these indicators, like, so what he showed, my mom's 80 years old. Her mother passed away when she was 86. And so when my grandfather came back from behind the crowd, I literally saw like a timeline. He goes, look, she's here at 80. Her mother died at 86. We don't know what her final timeline is gonna be. So we need to do this right now. And it was almost like a sense of urgency, which, and again, you know, if you know me personally, my beliefs that, you know, it's kind of aligns with my beliefs in the sense that in order for us to ascend and to raise our vibration and raise our spiritual awareness, if you will, or better connect with who we are spiritually, you have to be healed. You can't carry anything negative, or you can't carry any baggage around with you. And so I've always believed that for the last couple of years. And so this episode kind of falls right in line with what happened, with my thought process, if you will, in the sense that, you know, I was healing my mom on that level, and at the same time, she kind of came and helped heal me. But I thought what really sealed it was that, you know, how the old version of her cannot exist in the same place as the new version of her. You need to let that version go so the new one can come in. And I thought that was just fascinating and mind-boggling. I shared this with my one friend, and he was pretty blown away. And I just feel very fortunate and blessed to have these types of experiences, because it does allow me to redefine who I am. And I think I mentioned this in the last one, that we all kind of have this ability to heal this inner, to heal within us. I've also been studying epigenetics, which I think you should really take a look at it and study that, because epigenetics, it does talk about how we have the ability to heal ourselves, and we can go as far as seven generations back and 7 generations in the future when you start doing this type of work, healing yourself. Because remember, all of the traumas that our parents and ancestors went through is carried down and passed on through our DNA. And so if you're aware of epigenetics, you now have the ability to heal yourself, but also heal everyone who came before you, 7 generations, and the people that are going to come after you, 7 generations. So now that you have this knowledge, this information, you're almost tasked to do something about it. I'm not asking you to believe this, but this is what I choose to believe, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. I think I've been doing a lot of soul work on a different level of existence, if you will. And I just think it's important. And then I thought it was kind of crazy, because you do think you're crazy. This is a normal stuff. But when you, I'm not the only one. This type of stuff is happening on different levels, different places all over the world. And so there is kind of like a little subculture, if you will, but there is a community of people who are doing this type of work. Everyone's story is different than mine, but I think it's profound nonetheless. So anyways, I appreciate you guys taking the time to visit with me. I just kind of threw this together. But love you guys. Again, thanks for watching. If you want to leave any comments, concerns, reach out to me. Feel free to. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. Okay, thanks. Have a good day. Bye.